11,000 years ago, before the pyramids of Egypt, before Stonehenge, even before farming, humans gathered on a hill in what is now Turkey to build something unimaginable. Massive stone pillars, each weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in mysterious circles, carved with lions, vultures, snakes, and stars. This was not a village, not a farm, but a temple. Known today as Göbekli Tepe, it is the oldest temple ever discovered. A place that should not exist in its time. Who built it? How did hunter-gatherers move such stones without wheels, metal, or writing? And why, after centuries of use, was it deliberately buried beneath the earth? This is the mystery that could rewrite the story of human civilization. In the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, near the city of Sanliurfa, lies one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. For many years, the locals saw nothing more than a barren hill covered in stones. Farmers would often plow their fields and stumble across carved rocks. They assumed these were simply remnants of old cemeteries or ordinary stones from nature. No one imagined what truly lay beneath. It was not until the mid-1990s that the mystery began to unfold. In 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt, working with the German Archaeological Institute, visited the site. At first he thought he would find nothing unusual. But as he began walking through the fields, he noticed something remarkable. Some of the stones sticking out of the ground were not natural at all. They were carefully shaped pillars, and some even had faint carvings of animals and symbols. Schmidt immediately realized he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. Excavations began, and within a few years, an incredible structure started to reveal itself. Huge stone pillars arranged in perfect circles, some weighing up to 20 tons. The pillars were decorated with intricate carvings, foxes, lions, snakes, vultures, and abstract symbols. These were not random rocks. This was a carefully designed complex. The more archaeologists dug, the more they uncovered, and the mystery deepened. What shocked the world was the age of the site. Radiocarbon dating revealed that Göbekli Tepe was built around 9600 BC. That makes it over 11,000 years old. To put that into perspective, it is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge in England and 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramids of Giza. In other words, when Göbekli Tepe was already standing, the rest of the world's great monuments were not even imagined. This discovery sent shockwaves through archaeology. Until Göbekli Tepe was unearthed, historians believed that advanced architecture and organized religion only appeared after the invention of farming, around 4000 to 3000 BC. But Göbekli Tepe completely broke this timeline. Here was a massive, sophisticated temple complex built by hunter-gatherers, people who had not yet discovered farming, permanent settlements, or the wheel. The idea seemed impossible. How could people with no farms, no cities, and no metal tools build something so monumental? These were supposed to be small nomadic groups, living in tents and moving from place to place in search of food. Yet here they were, organizing thousands of people, carving giant limestone blocks, and arranging them in precise formations. Klaus Schmidt himself called Göbekli Tepe the first cathedral on a hill. It wasn't just a building, it was a sacred place, a site of ritual, a gathering point that likely united tribes from miles around. Its existence forced scholars to rethink human history. Perhaps it wasn't agriculture that led to religion and monuments. Perhaps it was the other way around, that the need to build places of worship brought people together, and only then did farming and permanent settlements develop. This idea completely flipped the traditional timeline of civilization. Göbekli Tepe showed that humans were capable of complex social and religious organization far earlier than anyone believed. For archaeologists, this was not just another site. It was like opening a time capsule from the dawn of human culture. Each pillar, each carving, each circle of stone whispered secrets of a forgotten age. And yet, despite decades of excavation, only a small portion of the site has been uncovered. Experts estimate that more than 90% of Göbekli Tepe still lies buried beneath the earth. The discovery was nothing less than revolutionary. It challenged the very foundation of our understanding of history. If this temple complex existed so early, what else might we have overlooked? What other advanced knowledge and culture could have existed in the deep past, long before the rise of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Greece? Göbekli Tepe became a symbol of mystery. It was proof that the human story is far older, far more complex, and far more fascinating than we ever imagined. And it all began because one archaeologist refused to believe that the stones on a Turkish hillside were ordinary. When archaeologists brushed away the dust of millennia, they revealed a sight unlike anything humanity had ever seen. At the heart of Göbekli Tepe stand massive limestone pillars, each weighing up to 20 tons, quarried, carved, and transported by people who had no metal tools, no wheels, and no domesticated animals of burden. These pillars, shaped like a T, were not scattered randomly but arranged in carefully planned circular enclosures. At the center of each circle stood two towering monoliths, slightly taller than the surrounding pillars, as if presiding over the rest. The sheer size and precision of the construction astonished archaeologists. These were not simple rocks stacked together. They were monumental works of deliberate design. Their smooth surfaces showed traces of carving, their bases anchored deep into the bedrock. To raise and position stones of such magnitude, early hunter-gatherer societies must have coordinated labor on a scale never seen before. This was not the work of isolated tribes. It was the result of organized communities with shared beliefs and purpose. On the surfaces of these pillars lay an even deeper mystery, intricate carvings of animals and symbols. Lions, foxes, vultures, scorpions, wild boars, snakes, and countless other creatures etched with remarkable detail. Some figures were depicted in motion, leaping, hunting, or confronting each other, while others appeared frozen in symbolic poses. Alongside these animals were strange abstract symbols, crescents, circles, and lines, which many believe held mythological or ritualistic meaning. But what did these carvings represent? Were they simple decorations or were they messages encoded in stone, the first attempts at symbolic communication before the invention of writing? Some scholars argue that the animals might have represented clans, spiritual totems, or protective spirits. Others see in them stories of creation, death, and rebirth. Among the most striking images is the vulture stone, where a headless human body lies beneath a vulture. This may reflect early beliefs about death, where vultures carried the souls of the dead to the afterlife. Another striking element is how the enclosures seem to align with the stars. Several researchers suggest that the layout of Göbekli Tepe was not random, that the pillars might have been placed to reflect constellations in the night sky. Some believe the site aligned with Orion and Sirius, the brightest stars, which were often associated with hunting and rebirth in later ancient cultures. If true, this would make Göbekli Tepe not only the first temple but also one of the earliest astronomical observatories, where humans sought to understand their place under the heavens. The architecture itself hints at ritualistic purpose. The circular design suggests a gathering place, possibly for communal ceremonies. The imposing T-shaped pillars, with their abstract human-like form, may have represented deities, ancestors, or mythical beings. Carvings on some pillars show arms folded across the torso, suggesting that these giant monoliths were not just stones. They were stone representations of beings, perhaps gods or ancestral spirits. This raises the possibility that Göbekli Tepe was the birthplace of organized religion. Until its discovery, scholars believed that agriculture led to religion, that people first settled, farmed, and built communities, and only then developed spiritual systems. But Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that the need to gather for ritual and belief may have driven people to organize and later invent farming to sustain their gatherings. Religion, in this sense, may have been the force that gave birth to civilization itself. Standing at Göbekli Tepe today, one can imagine the awe of those who gathered here 12,000 years ago. The flicker of torches casting shadows on animal carvings, the alignment of the stones with the rising stars, the chants echoing within stone circles, all of it suggesting a place where the earth met the heavens, and where humans first asked the eternal questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? What lies beyond? Göbekli Tepe's architecture and symbolism remain an enigma. But one thing is clear, it was more than just a construction site. It was a sacred landscape, where humanity's oldest dreams, fears, and beliefs were carved into stone. When Göbekli Tepe was first revealed, archaeologists were not just surprised, they were shocked. The site is more than 11,000 years old, far older than Stonehenge in England or the pyramids of Egypt. And yet, somehow, its builders had carved and transported 20-ton limestone pillars without metal tools, without the wheel, and without a farming-based society to support such monumental labor. This raises one of the greatest questions of human history. How was such construction possible before agriculture even existed? The traditional view of civilization tells us that farming came first. People settled down, grew food, built permanent villages, and only then had the stability to create religion, culture, and monuments. But Göbekli Tepe turns that idea upside down. Some archaeologists now suggest a revolutionary theory. Religion may have come before farming. The builders of Göbekli Tepe may have been motivated by shared rituals, ceremonies, and beliefs. The need for large gatherings, feasts, worship, or sacrifices could have pushed people to organize food production on a larger scale. In other words, it was not agriculture that created religion, it was religion that may have inspired agriculture. But even this explanation does not fully solve the mystery. The sheer size and complexity of Göbekli Tepe has led some to ask, could it be evidence of a lost civilization? Perhaps a society more advanced than we currently know, one that existed before the accepted timeline of history and left behind few traces other than this temple. For some, Göbekli Tepe suggests that our ancestors were far more capable and far more organized than we once imagined. Of course, with great mystery comes even greater speculation. Some have connected Göbekli Tepe with ancient alien theories. The idea is not mainstream science, but its appeal is strong. Could knowledge from beyond Earth have helped humans carve symbols, align the pillars with the stars, and raise stone circles of such scale thousands of years earlier than expected? And then there is perhaps the most puzzling question of all. Around 800 BC, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried. The massive stone enclosures were covered with tons of dirt and debris. It was not destroyed by war or erosion. It was carefully hidden, almost as if its builders wanted to preserve it, or to conceal it. Why would they do this? Was it an act of protection, to save the temple from enemies or from natural forces? Or was it secrecy, to hide sacred knowledge that future generations were not meant to see? To this day no one knows the answer. What Göbekli Tepe leaves us with is not a solution but a riddle. A site older than any temple we have ever known. A construction that should not have been possible for hunter-gatherers. A monument that may have changed the timeline of human history forever. Göbekli Tepe remains, above all, a reminder that the story of civilization is far from complete, and that sometimes the oldest ruins raise the newest questions. Göbekli Tepe is more than just an ancient ruin. It has rewritten human history. For decades, textbooks told us that agriculture gave rise to cities, religion, and monuments. But here, standing on a hill in southeastern Turkey, is proof of something older, something that challenges the very foundation of that story. Archaeologists now see Göbekli Tepe as a turning point, a reminder that our ancestors were capable of extraordinary achievements long before the age of pyramids and empires. Its massive stone circles, animal carvings, and celestial alignments show that humans had complex ideas of religion, symbolism, and community thousands of years earlier than anyone expected. But even today, its meaning remains mysterious. Excavations continue, and every new discovery raises more questions than answers. Were the carvings on the pillars simply decorations, or did they tell a story, a forgotten myth, perhaps even the earliest scripture? Was the temple a place of gathering, sacrifice, or initiation into secret knowledge? And what about its builders? We know little about who they were. No permanent houses, no farming fields, no metal tools have been found nearby. How did groups of hunter-gatherers organize themselves to cut, move, and erect 20-ton limestone pillars with such precision? Did they gather seasonally, uniting multiple tribes for religious festivals? Or was there a hidden structure of leadership we still cannot see? The greatest mystery of all is its deliberate burial around 800 BC. Why would the people who built this monument cover it up? Was it an act of reverence, preserving a sacred place for eternity? Or was it an attempt to seal away dangerous or forbidden knowledge? The silence of the earth has hidden their reasons for over 10,000 years. Today, Göbekli Tepe is often called the world's first temple. But perhaps that title is too simple. It is more than the beginning of religion or architecture or social organization. It is a puzzle piece from a much larger story, a story of humanity that stretches back further than we can currently trace. Its legacy is clear. Göbekli Tepe forces us to question what we thought we knew. It shows us that human history is not a straight line from primitive to advanced, but a web of forgotten experiments, leaps of imagination, and lost achievements. And so, the questions remain. Was this truly the cradle of civilization? Or is it only the doorway, the beginning of an even older story we have yet to uncover? Until we find the answers, Göbekli Tepe will continue to stand as one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world, silent, timeless, and waiting.